Hi everybody, it's Adam from LucidPIXUL, and I want to talk with you. I want to have a talk with you today about something that, if you actually consider and apply in your own work, will contribute to probably one of the greatest growths, artistic growths you will ever experience in your career, starting immediately right now and throughout the rest of your career. Okay? Now, I know you're probably thinking to yourself, whoa, Adam, that's a very big claim. Can you support this claim with true hard facts? Yes, absolutely. In fact, I find that this is one of the greatest contributions to the rapid growth of many of my students in my mentorship. Okay? And this is furthermore the #1 spot where I feel people stunt themselves artistically. Now, this idea actually I didn't actually come up with this idea myself. One of my students who just graduated a couple of days wrote me an email asking me if I could actually do a talk on this. And she's somebody who I greatly respect artistically. She's been around for a long time. She's got a lot of experience, and she's got a very diverse set of skills. And it was I was really excited about this topic when she brought it up, because I thought, holy smokes, this is really something that people could really benefit from learning. Okay. But before I get to that, because I'm all about suspense, you know, building up to it, you know what I'm saying? I'm going to tell you a little experience that I had in my life that actually helped me artistically. It had nothing to do with art, yet it was one of the biggest learning lessons to me on how I could overcome my own obstacles and grow at the speed that I really desired growing professionally as an artist. At a certain point, if I go years back in my life, I taught salsa. Okay, I was a salsa dance teacher, and I did this for years. And one of my biggest frustrations was the fact that most of my students were Latino. They were all, you know, Puerto Rico, South America, Mexico, you name it. Okay, Spain. A lot of them spoke Spanish, yet I did not. And it frustrated me that they always had to make an effort to speak English to me, when very often English wasn't a language they were very comfortable with, because I was the teacher. And it always annoyed me that my students had to adapt to me when it should be me adapting to them, considering they're the majority, right? So I decided to buckle down one day and learn Spanish. And one of my friends lent me her school books that she used to learn Spanish. I think it was a book called ACS or something like that. And I sat down for over 6 or 7 months, and I went through the book like as if I was a full-time student of the language. Every time I had a free moment, I'd go to the cafe, I'd grab my notebook, and I'd just write down vocabulary and grammar, okay? Page after page after page, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of words. And from there, once I started to gain a better vocabulary, then I went and I started picking up books in Spanish to actually read, you know, learn how, you know, learn the slang and learn how words are used and learn sentence structure and stuff like that. Now, to date, before you start, you know, shooting your mouth off in Spanish, saying, "Oh my God, he speaks Spanish. Let's have a conversation." My Spanish still sucks. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm still very mediocre, but I can communicate. Okay. However, before I could communicate in Spanish, I had to overcome something very significant. I had spent those 6 months learning in the written form. I learned to read and I learned to write. And my vocabulary, I had to say, was getting there. You know, I was impressing myself with how much I memorized. Memorized, meaning memory, meaning in my brain. However, one day, a couple of my Mexican friends decided to take me to a bar in Montreal called Momentos, which is a Mexican bar. And we all sat down together, and my friend, his name is Israel. My friend sat next to me, and he goes, "Okay, Adam, for the rest of the night, no English. You're not allowed to speak a word of English. Tonight, we're speaking entirely in Spanish. You're in a Mexican bar, we're speaking Spanish." I was like, okay. And if you know Mexicans talk damn fast, you know? And I've had a chance to compare different cultures, and Mexicans are fast talkers and a lot of slang, you know? So I was like, woof. But in any case, I was like, sure, cool, no problem. I have this book. It'll give me a chance to show off. So I'm sitting down at this table with everybody. And if you've ever hung out with Mexicans before, the general culture is, the way they generally do it is one person will fork the bill for all the drinks that night, and everybody takes turns, right? So one day it's his turn, next day it's my turn, then it's somebody else's turn. So we bought this big bucket of Coronas, and we're all sitting down, and they start to talk to me in Spanish. And I'm the oddball, you know, I'm the guy who's sitting there, because everybody speaks fluent Spanish. They're all Mexican except for me. So everybody's kind of sitting there going, well, how are we going to talk to this guy so that he doesn't feel intimidated? And I said, no, 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 no. You just talk. I can handle it, you know? And they were like, okay. So they started to talk to me. And I'm listening, I'm going, in my brain, I'm thinking, yeah, I understand them. I understand what they're saying. And I know and my brain is, you know, starting to start to construct a response. And the response is there. Okay, I'm ready, Adam. This is your moment of truth. Okay, say it. And I went, I couldn't get the words out of my mouth. The words were there, but I couldn't get them out of my mouth. And I was like, what the hell's wrong with me? I spent the last 7 months learning this, and how come I couldn't get the words out. It was like, literally, I felt like somebody was squeezing my throat when I was trying to talk. And it was so frustrating. And it went on for about 10, 15 minutes. I would be like, see, you know, you're like, see, just a little shy guy, see, you know. So, and my friend says, relax, it's no big deal. Have a couple of Coronas, you're gonna be fine, you know. So he knows I was a cheap date, you know. I'm the cheapest date in North America, I'm quite sure. You know, one or two beers and that's it. I'm out for the night. So. And you wouldn't guess that being 6'3", but yeah, I'm a total lightweight. So after a couple of beers, I started to loosen up a little bit, you know, and then I let a sentence out. And I went, oh, okay, that's not as bad as I thought. Now after about 3-4 hours, and we were dancing, we were having fun, we were listening to music, and we were chatting, those inhibitions started to let loose. And the more I started to relax and come to terms with the fact that I can actually do this, the more that knowledge the more that gate started to open, allowing more and more of my knowledge to filter through, right? And the more confident I got. Now, at no point in time did I end up becoming fluent in Spanish to this day, because I don't have that many opportunities to practice. But every single time I bump into somebody who does speak Spanish, I make an effort to talk to them in Spanish, even if they're fluent in English. They're like, oh, okay, Adam wants to speak Spanish again. All right, so they humor me and they speak Spanish to me. And some people, a lot of if you know a lot of Latinos, they're very proud and very enthusiastic about their language. So if somebody actually makes an effort to speak in Spanish, they really celebrate that. They really encourage that. There's no judgmentalism when it comes to that kind of stuff, you know. So it's really cool. And so the more I did it, the more I realized that I could put all of this knowledge to use. Now, if I take this and I put this in the context of art, this is actually one of the #1 things that I find students struggle with. And furthermore, stuff that I've struggled with and things that every single artist I've known of every caliber and every age have struggled with. In my mentorship, every single week we tackle on a new topic, and we start right from the bare basics and we build ourselves up to a very advanced level understanding of whatever topic it is we're learning. So anatomy, every muscle and bone of the human body, value in light, all the scientific properties of light, all the different ways of playing with value and chiaroscuro and all these different things, okay? Every week has a different topic that we really delve into in depth. And when students do their studies, 99% of the time, they do an awesome job, okay? Because this is the instruction. These are the lessons. I'm going to apply this knowledge to this study, and they do the study, and it very often, most often, comes through beautifully. Okay. Then one of the things I encourage my students to do, if time permitting, of course, is if they can apply this knowledge. Let's say they studied anatomy, to do a piece of artwork, a personal piece of artwork, where they're applying this new knowledge into their art. Okay, and that's funny enough where I end up finding that roadblock. That's the cul-de-sac, right? The dead end that they hit. And all of the studies were gorgeous. They're value paintings of skin and value and all this gorgeous. And then when it comes to actually applying that to their own piece of artwork, it's night and day. All of a sudden, it's like brilliant, totally forgot. Why does that happen? And why does that happen to you? Why do you find, think about yourself, you're a passionate artist, you've studied, you've bought, you know, dozens of Gumroads, you've watched hundreds of YouTube videos, you've watched interviews where they all talk about the same thing, about their own artistic struggles, right? You've taken mentorships, you've taken courses, you've done all of this stuff. But when you go to paint and you sit down and paint, you try maybe a little something, You give it about 15 minutes of your time, you get frustrated, and then you oh, screw it, I'll go back to my comfort zone. Why? Why does that happen? Well, that is the exact same emotional equivalent of trying to speak, not learn, speak a language you're not familiar with. Okay? What is it in me that caused me to feel like I couldn't get those words out? It wasn't the fact that I didn't have the knowledge. It wasn't the fact that my tongue broke or that my mouth broke and I couldn't speak anymore. It was my ego. You know, I've talked about ego a lot, right? Ego is a very destructive force. It's a very hindering force in a person's life. My ego, I spent my entire life learning English, being clever with it, learning to have a sense of humor with it, learning how to twist it around, playing with, learning all the different slang, all these. I've got, you know, I had years and years and years of knowledge of this. Spanish, I'm a beginner again. And that fear of being a beginner made me so afraid to speak that I couldn't even get the words out. But as soon as I allowed those words to come out, as soon as I forced myself to get those words out and actually apply my knowledge with my mouth and communicate it, my fear of being an amateur disappeared. And I instead celebrated being something new, having a new way of living my life and communicating with my friends that never existed before. I felt like a bigger, better human being for having done it. But up until that point, it was the fear of being an amateur, fear of, it was almost as if I felt like I'd been knocked back 30 years and being a kid again, learning how to put words together for the first time like my 2-year-old boy, okay? The same thing applies to art. We find comfort zones in our artwork. You learn to draw and you're going to laugh, you know, learn to draw hands with the 2 middle fingers together, with the dynamic wrists and these poses and these poses and these poses and this, and the sword in the downward pose with the shoulders back. But every single one of your characters has the same freaking body language, the same pose, the same type of weapon, the same power eyebrow. Everything's power eyebrows, you know, casting a spell, swinging a sword, always with the power eyebrow, you know, thinking, reading a book, you know, it's always the same freaking power eyebrow. But when somebody says paint somebody who's sad, you paint somebody who's sad like this. Somebody who's happy. Somebody who's inquisitive. Okay? The eyes don't change because you haven't actually, you know the human face, you know how the human face emotes, yet you haven't actually spoken that onto your canvas yet. And when it comes time, when you think about it, you've got a huge well of knowledge in your head from all of these different sources of learning. But it's not until you force yourself to actually apply them in your own work that you're going to realize that you are capable of doing more and capable of doing better than you ever thought you could do. Up until that point, you're always going to live based on the last standard that you set for yourself. What you're going to find is, even though you might not be a master of light, the very fact that you applied a new and more advanced knowledge of light and value into your painting will by default make your painting better than you've ever made it before. Okay? Once you witness that, you're witnessing the same thing I witnessed when I first spoke Spanish and realized that I could communicate. You have improved the quality of your life overall. You have become a bigger, better human being. And your ability to connect and communicate with the world around you has improved. That obstacle that you've dealt with every time you'd sit in a bus and you'd listen to 2 people speaking in Spanish going, God, that sounds cool, I wish I could do that. Now you can. And it's the same thing that applies, exact same thing applies to your art. You've been looking at other people's artwork going, wow, I wish I could do that. And now you realize, holy shit, I can. And when you realize that, your confidence skyrockets. You're not the greatest master of light and anatomy in the world yet, but you've given yourself that confidence boost to know A, you can do it, and B, you're passionate. It's become something you're so passionate about that you will eventually become the master of the world. Okay? It's just a matter of time and repetition and practice and evolving on that knowledge, but you got to break the ice first. Okay? It might sound so cliche, but one of the greatest advertising slogans of all time is by Nike. Just do it. Don't question yourself. Just do it. Because it's in the act of doing it that you'll realize you can. And it's not until you realize you can that you will apply it to your own life. Okay? All of this knowledge, you spent years of your life building this huge bank of knowledge. It's time for you to actually put it to use. And once you actually do it, apply your knowledge of anatomy, apply your knowledge of value and light, apply your knowledge of color, apply your knowledge of composition and visual storytelling. Apply it. Actually make a physical, conscious effort of applying those principles into your work. Okay? And you will, I guarantee, in record time, you're going to see the quality of your work skyrocket. And it'll be night and day. You'll look at what you've painted today, and you're going to look at what you paint in 2 months from now, and you won't even recognize it. It'll look like two completely different artists. It'll look like there's been a time span, a time lapse of 20 years of improvement. Okay? And mark my words, just do it. Okay? So I hope you enjoyed this talk. Again, if you're interested in the LucidPIXUL Private Art Mentorship, all of the information is in the link in the description. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Take care.